This is Annuity Straight Talk. Since 2008, your host, Brian Anderson, has helped clients nationwide navigate the complex market for annuities. With Brian's assistance, hundreds of clients have achieved a profitable and secure retirement. I would know, because Brian has answered many of my questions concerning annuities and retirement planning. So that you can benefit as well, let's get started. Here's Brian.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Annuity Straight Talk podcast, episode number 69. Finishing off great 2022. We're on New Year's Eve is when you guys are going to see this. It's going to be out. I've got the most popular guest I've ever had is a guy from California that everyone loves. Everyone asks, what does he think? What does he think? As everybody's like, I got to spend most of my time like answering questions about what John Balmer would think, but he's here for the final episode of the year. It's now. Say hello, sir.
Brian, Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. How are you doing?
Yada, yada, yada. Yes, we're good. Family things being what they are, great Christmas, all that stuff. So we're obviously recording this ahead of time, right?
That's right. Hope everyone had a great holiday.
And we're here to just, crush retirement for people, are we not?
That's right. That's right. Let's do it.
So we're going with, this is John's baby. He said, I was like, what do we do at the end of the year? He said, we're going to do, he said, introduce it. Like it could be, it doesn't have to have a number on it, right? 7 things you can do in retirement, right? In the new year.
7 things to do in the new year. I think that'd be a good start for everyone to go by the 7 rules.
Okay. All right. So do you remember what we have? We talked about it a little bit earlier, right?
First
is what? Did you write them down or do you want me to send it to you?
No, you can send it to me. Review your beneficiary designation.
Beneficiary check. And I told you the story. A couple of annuities that recently sold where typically we were looking at a husband and a wife. So, a spousal couple, one spouse owns it if it's an IRA, especially, and the surviving spouse is the beneficiary. Then you usually put your kids as contingent beneficiaries, right?
That's right. That's right.
And my idea, which it's kind of one of those things you go through life and it's like some stupid revelation where it's like, wait a second. I always took the kids and I put in their address and all that stuff, where you should put your contingent beneficiaries, especially your kids, on at your address. Because honestly, if you die, they're going to be there cleaning everything up anyway, right?
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, I could go into a horror story that I learned of early on in my career when it came to checking your beneficiaries. And I can go into that if you want me to a little bit later.
Okay. Well, we might do maybe a different episode, honestly, because in some of the continuing education I've done, I talked about the how different state laws affect beneficiary and what the annuity actually does, depending on who is the owner, the annuitant, the beneficiary, the contingent, the primary, all that stuff. Actually, there's a pretty complex legal walkthrough that kind of determines what happens with that money when you're gone, right?
That's right. That's right.
I'm guessing your horror story is related to that somehow, right?
Yeah, it had to do with a lady that was married later on in life, and her sister, who was her initial beneficiary, didn't like her husband, and that lady unfortunately came down with god awful cancer, and she had never changed the beneficiary on her 403b. And so when it came to the husband collecting that money, the sister of the deceased spouse said, "No way, that's my money."
Okay. And so a giant legal battle ensues, and money was spent, and lawyers profited. And
Absolutely. And the sister won. The sister won, as she should have. She was the beneficiary.
so that's just a good reminder. Make sure everything is tight the way you want it, and call us to review accounts. Like, call me, let me know if you want to look over things and make sure everything's beneficiaries can be changed on IRAs, annuities, anything, right? At any point in time. So number one tip for the new year is review the beneficiaries, right?
Absolutely.
You got my document. What's the next one on the list?
We're going to go through risk tolerance. I think that this is important, particularly on my side of the table.
That's your wheelhouse. Yeah.
It's one of those things that I always encourage people to do is review their risk tolerance, particularly when you have years like we've had this year, where most of the markets have been volatile or negative. It only takes a real volatile down market, particularly a prolonged down market like we've seen over the last year, to let people rethink how much risk they're willing to take in their portfolio. And, I always tell people it's not the head that determines investment success, it's the stomach. And I think the first quarter of next year is going to, bring very much the same. And so I definitely want to encourage your audience to, reassess or reevaluate their risk tolerance.
That's a really good point, because throughout this year, obviously we had rising rates, we had a volatile market. We're ending the year lower in the stock market than we started the year. I know a lot of people who would love to take advantage of the high rates, but they stuck in the market too long and lost a little bit of money, right? So you have that, well, I want to get back. So just a reminder to make sure you keep everything in perspective and do things for the right reason, make moves, and protect what assets you can protect, so that years like this don't phase you at all, right?
Yeah, I think it's if you're appropriately positioned in the first place for the long term, you can expect to have years like this, but you have to make sure that your risk tolerance is always consistently reevaluated.
Yeah, and so that's why we're here. Give us a call, 800-438-5121. My name is Brian Anderson. You are not allowed to call John Balmer unless you come through me first. So hit the top right corner of any page on AnnuityStraightTalk.com to make an appointment if you want to check on it, right? So John, he's got a firewall around him, and that firewall is me. So risk tolerance, big deal. So do you mind if I skip down the list a little bit?
No, go for it. Yeah.
Because I said, right now, I told you this the other day. It's like, why am I not just like filling out paperwork all day, every day, right?
Right.
The number 3 on the list, right? They're not sequentially ordered by any means, but buy a dang annuity right now, okay? That is like, they are better than they've been in 15 years. I'm going to turn John into an annuity salesman. I told him that.
You did. I love it.
What are you waiting for? I was like, I got an email today. Oh, and as soon as they get to 6%, let me know. Annuities and greed don't mix, right? Annuities are not for greed. You got a good yield on it. It's about protecting money. And holy cow, we got some good stuff that probably is not going to be here in the next 6 months. I'm going to call rates being lower than in 6 months, right? By June. So I'm going to say it right now on the podcast. We'll come back to it in June. John, maybe you'll be up here for your next trip. And why would you not get them at the top of the market?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think rates will be lower in 6 months.
So I talked to my, like the expert that I know, that the institutional trader. And I asked him, where do you think rates are going to be in 6 months? And he gave me, I told you this, like he gives me the 50 things he thinks about that might affect it. And he answers the question without answering the question. And I said, well, I think they're going to be lower. He said, yeah, it's not a question of whether they'll be lower. He said it's whether it's going to be a hard or a soft landing.
That's right.
What do you think about that, John?
I think the Fed's in a really precarious position right now. They have and continue to be behind the curve, and so I think they're really the only way out of this is to have a really, really rough, hard landing. The best case scenario would be a soft landing, but I just don't think it's going to happen. Personally, in my opinion, that might not, come out to be true, but that's just my thoughts.
Right. No, we're good. And again, like we're going to give our thoughts, and we're not 100% right all the time. And John, you've been pretty spot on, like judging the markets and telling people what to expect. I think, isn't it funny? Like if the best thing about Annuity Straight Talk is John Ballmer's market predictions. Like, come on, it's like I owe you for that, buddy. Happy New Year. All right.
We've been pretty good this year, but it's only a lot of this is recognizing the charts and realizing taking a realistic 30,000 foot view of the markets and seeing what's going on. It's a lot of stuff going on.
Being objective instead of subjective, right? Okay, so next one on the list. What do we got? How about we do taxes and Roth conversions? What do you have to say about that?
Annuities are tax deferred vehicles. So if you are sitting on CD money, you can get a competitive rate in annuity. Defer those taxes on the CD. Every time you go to the bank and put a bunch of money into a CD, you get what's called a 1099 at the end of the year. You do not get that with an annuity as long as those funds are held with the insurance company. And then Roth conversions are a phenomenal strategy um, to do. Get some money. Obviously you're going to pay taxes now, but it's going to get money out of the hands of the government, which ultimately is what you want to do. So, if you can afford to do a Roth conversion, or if you have some stock that's depressed or off its all-time high, don't sell it. Convert it into a Roth. Pay a lot less tax.
Yeah, and that's one thing that again we can help with, like figuring out how that works, right? You want to stay within tax brackets, and sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. I always say with Roth conversions, like a lot of people come to me, and the question was, do you want to pay no taxes, or do you want to pay the least amount of taxes over time, right? Do you want less, or do you want to pay, right? Because a lot of times Roth conversions are expensive too. If you're making money right now, you don't want to convert because the extra income is going to come in a higher tax bracket, right? So if your goal is to pay no taxes, fine. Or if you want to pay the least amount of taxes over time, because a lot of times paying no taxes costs you a lot up front.
That's right. That's right.
We should probably do. You have some really good software, don't you, John, on Roth conversions?
Yeah, I do. And what I found is the niche, the best time to do those Roth conversions is right after you retire and right before you start taking your Social Security. If you can delay that window, you're able to have a low amount of income, stay in a lower tax bracket, convert as much of that IRA as you can into a Roth, and then start collecting. So by the time you hit 71 and a half or 70 and a half, I think it's 71, Brian, 72.
72.
72 now. Um, you're able to lower those required minimum distributions as much as possible, and now you have most of your money working in a tax-free environment. It just works out really well. You can pass that on to beneficiaries tax-free. It's just a great vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good opportunity for people, but you have to like do the math and figure it out and make sure that you're actually saving money doing it. But for anybody who's got an IRA balance into retirement, they don't necessarily need to use, and you've got a little room in a tax bracket where you can start converting that. That's a really good opportunity to do it. So lots of ideas. There's a lot of ways to do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a software that can perform those calculations. So if you don't want to go outside of your next tax bracket, we can definitely set that up.
Okay. Okay. Required minimum distributions, RMDs. What do you think about those? Got to take them. So that goes in with, does it not go in with Roth conversions? Is it kind of what you were talking about?
Yeah, you want to make sure that you can lower that RMD as much as possible. I have some clients that once they hit 72, they're actually having to take out a whole bunch of money from a big IRA or a big 401k. And it just throws them into, they end up paying, I think you and I have talked about this, for a long time. I think the biggest lie, uh, that Congress set up was the 401k plan. I mean, that was the biggest tax, they're the biggest tax beneficiary of all of that
Yes, they are.
because you're required to take it out. There's a minimum age that you can start taking it out. You have to take it out at 72. It used to be 70 and a half. And, it's just all that money that you deferred has grown and grown and grown over 30, 40 years. It's just a much bigger balance. And you got to start taking it out and paying your taxes. So you can reduce that, the RMDs. You also want to make sure that you don't miss your RMD. RMDs are calculated as of 12/31 of the previous year. So look at all your statements, look at all your IRAs,
Mm-hmm.
add that up. If Brian and I can do the calculations for you in order to determine the amount that you need to take out, because if you do not take it out, then you're taxed. There's a penalty tax on not taking out enough money.
Right. So the IRA, the 401k, it's like you're going into business with the federal government, right?
That's right. You and I talk about that all the time.
Yeah, and everybody does it, and it's like I'm going to say right now, John, I do not have an IRA. And everybody's like, "Oh, you don't have a retirement account?" No, I don't. Why? Cuz like 90% of my job is helping people deal with the garbage that comes along with their IRA. And I don't want to be there, right?
That's right.
You see this? That's what I got. It's a box of freaking money, right? That's what I got. There you go for the podcast.
Yeah. Caveat, I do have a 401k and an IRA, and I fund them religiously. I think it's a great forced savings vehicle. If you're not going to participate in one, your employer doesn't offer one, talk to Brian or I. We can set you up on an automatic investment program where you're forced savings, so you can have that retirement nest egg. Because you know the biggest obstacle that I find with people is people just don't save enough these days.
Yeah, and we're dealing in a business, and typically, like a lot of our clients, John, obviously have more than enough money, right? And it's kind of one of those things where I started in this business from a contrarian perspective, and it was to fund my insurance and my savings and all that stuff first, and it probably will do an IRA at some point. I'm only 44 years old, right? But do it when it is actually beneficial from a tax deduction standpoint. And so, like it or not, a lot of people are in that position when they have the IRA. And again, our job is to help people like work within that framework, right? We're talking about Roth conversions, RMDs, all that stuff. So I meet like a 55-year-old with a bunch of money in an IRA, and you say like it's, it might be 15, 16 years away, but you're going to have to take that money out. So
Yeah, absolutely.
a lot of different ideas. You don't have to do a Roth conversion, but again, you talk about spending in retirement. If you retire at 63, you're going to have to take it out at 72. And a lot of people that I know that I've met are overfunded for retirement, which is a great thing. And many of them would be well served by, starting to take systematic distributions from that IRA so they don't have a giant tax bill when they get to 72, right?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And you've got to figure out, if you have $1 million IRA, you don't have $1 million. You have $1 million minus what you owe the government. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. And then whatever the market does to it, right? So then there's me. I like that. Don't you like that? Like silver, like just the clank of the money. Okay. RMDs. Okay. Well, let's start. We got 2 left, right?
Yeah, right.
Beneficiary check, risk tolerance, taxes, Roth conversions, RMDs. Buy an annuity. Buy a dang annuity, for crying out loud. It's time. We're here to help. And then you've got make a plan to do something fun.
Yeah. Come visit Brian in Montana. You'll have a hell of a time.
What if everybody comes, though? What if everybody comes? It's like, and I'm just entertaining all the time.
You'll never get anything done, but you'll have a great time.
Yeah. I'll have like my hat out, like collecting donations for being a host all the time.
That's right.
I did this, the podcast, I don't know, probably in April or May this year, which is leisure time and retirement. And I talked about how I went fishing with my buddies, right? John came up here in late June, right?
That's right.
And we had a good time. But the point is like to do some things that are fun, right? And time in retirement is a tough issue. So you somebody that works a long time, they don't know anything else but work, right? And so a lot of people have. So right now, I'm taking my dad's one of those guys where he doesn't know anything but work because he's always worked. So now he works and he putters around his little farm, but I'm taking him to the Fiesta Bowl, right? So I'll be watching the game when this one goes out to the list, right? John doesn't want to drive over to Arizona and see me because he's busy. But the point is, like, you have to learn to, I've talked to my dad about it all the time. You have to find things that you enjoy and you can do for fun.
I agree. Absolutely.
And for the casual listener, that's the number one thing. And I can give give me a little bit of credit, okay? As for what I know about annuities and talking to old people and stuff, the biggest problem, and I've done this a number of times, the biggest problem is there's a lot of people, you figure out the money side of it, and we can nail that all day long, can't we, John?
Yeah. I think, Brian, that's one of the things that I tell people all the time. And they when they ask us, why should we hire you? Why should we hire you to manage our money? It's so you can do something fun. You don't want to watch every tick on the stock market. You don't want to spend your retirement watching CNBC or Bloomberg all day. You don't want to do that. You want to go out and have some fun, enjoy your life. That's why you worked 40 years for.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's, again, I think I did a newsletter called it like the most important thing in retirement. It's not the money. Like, you either have the money or you don't. That's very objective, but you got to have a way to like go fill your time and enjoy yourself, because that's the point of it all, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that goes right into the last one, right? And I said this, we were talking earlier, John. Go give your wife or your husband a big kiss. That's the seventh thing. So, John, you going to get off this and go give Liz a kiss and tell you love her? Life's too short to not enjoy the people you spend time with, right?
That's right. That's right. And Brian, I've had a tough month. You know, I've had some tragedies. Some of my peers that I grew up with have passed away. Lost one in November and just lost one last week. Um, so life's too short. Cherish every moment that you have with the loved ones that you have, and it's the only advice I can give you.
No, that's all part of it. Well, don't you agree? Like, the reason we do this is obviously we make a living doing it. Neither one of us is that greedy. I can tell you, everybody right now, that John Balmer is the most selfless guy, right? He's never, ever looking out for himself first. He's always looking out for other people. And I think that's important. But again, we do it because we feel driven to help other people make their lives easier. And the money's just that's a result, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a byproduct of, we enjoy what we do. We're helping people. Um, yeah, we get to make a great living doing it. But it's really kind of our why. I think I shared with you before, Brian, my parents didn't really have a retirement. My dad had a small $1,000 pension, and he retired in 1983. My mom is 87 now. You can imagine that $1,000 doesn't go very far in 2022, soon to be 2023.
No, it's true. But, and again, just look at everything around you and do all this stuff. Like, this part's easy. We do the easy stuff. And the hard part is what you focus on. And that's love the people around you, because they're the ones that got you there, the reason you do it, right? So, you got anything else we're going to add to this, John? There's 7 things.
Happy New Year. Call us if you have any questions.
Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Call us. Call me and let me know if you want to talk to John. Oh, I had a client today email me. So people are listening to this, John. People are like, hey, that one guy, that guy from California that you talk, would it be okay if I talk to him? So yeah, I'm gonna, and it's a good one. So I'm gonna send him to you.
Much appreciated. I appreciate that.
You got to do. You email me. You let me know. Like, hey, is it okay if I talk to John? You like how I'm like the gatekeeper for you?
I love it. Thank you. As I mean, let's be honest, it's been a really tough year. I talk to you almost every day about what's going on in the market and the ebbs and flows. And, I think as we head into this recession, those are some things, you've got to brace yourself for some continued volatility into the new year. And I think maybe the back half of next year will be, there'll be a lot of improvement, but there's still a lot of stuff that we got to get through. So it's the prolonged negative numbers that really wear on people. So that kind of touches on risk tolerance again. Check your risk tolerance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we look at like the market's about flat over 2 years, right?
Yeah.
But John, we'll have you back. Obviously, everybody wants to hear this. So probably sometime in January, we'll do this again, and we'll kind of look at the market. And again, it's not to freak anybody out or make moves based on this or that, but just try to like help people understand what drives the markets and how you can kind of see it developing over time. So it's real money. It's things that do matter to you. And again, we're here to help. So there it is.
Brian, thanks for having me on again. I appreciate it. Happy New Year.
Hey, always great to see you. So everybody knows we talk for like 30 minutes before we actually record, but and we'll talk for a little while after we're done. But anyway, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everyone. 800-438-5121. Schedule a call, top right corner of AnnuityStraightTalk.com. Any page you want, get a hold of us. You want to talk to John, you talk to me first. We'll figure it out. But John, thank you again for being here, and we'll see you guys in 2023. Okay, bye.
You have been listening to Annuity Straight Talk. The preceding information is for informational and educational purposes only and does not represent tax, legal, or investment advice. The views expressed by guests on this program are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Annuity Straight Talk or its partners. No information presented today should be acted upon without meeting with a qualified and licensed professional. It is important that you read all insurance contract disclosures carefully before making a purchase decision. Guarantees are based on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the insurance company.